What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan.
And the Ottawa REDBLACKS lose
24-16. Yeah. Same thing as my previous video. I don't really care about the final result. That's not what this game is about. It's preseason football. If you want me to go more in depth as to why preseason football is something that you don't read too deeply into, you can watch my previous video. This game is more about seeing who's going to make the final cut for the practice roster and potentially for the team, not, something you get super invested to as a fan. But look at me. I'm a super fan, so I still get invested. Obviously, I would have liked it had Ottawa won, but I was happy that it was a good game. Compared to the other game against Montreal, which was kind of a slog, if we're being honest, a bit more one-sided, 24-16, you know what? End of the game, there was still some semblance of life. It was still kind of interesting, and you know what? We lose, that's okay. Who cares, I'm glad that some Montreal fans got to enjoy this one, but I have no sympathy now. From here on out, sympathy out the window. I'm all REDBLACKS all day, baby. Again, it would have been maybe nice if we flip-flopped, like if they won at home and we won at home in front of our fans, but to be fair, weren't many fans. The game was nearly rained out. There was a rain delay that started the game at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock. And it was a preseason game. I expect our home opener to have a lot more fans. A lot more. And I say that I expect this because team's here to play. So I said this video would be more me talking about the CFL, why I love the CFL, why you should love the CFL, and, some of my predictions. Well, my first prediction is yes. I'm predicting the Ottawa REDBLACKS are making it back to the playoffs. I'm predicting that they're going to go further in the playoffs than they did last year. My prediction right now is a Grey Cup appearance or East Finals appearance. My prediction is a playoff win. And I'm flip-flopping. Do I think we're going to finish first or second? I think we're going to host a playoff game and we're going to win a playoff game at minimum. And I think that should be the minimum expectation going into this season. Hamilton finished lower than us. They gave us a scare at the end. But quite frankly, we have gotten better. And I think we've gotten better than Hamilton. I do think Hamilton actually made some improvements in the offseason. Don't get me wrong. I think they've improved. I think we've improved more than Hamilton. If we were like this last season, I think we're here and they're like here. I think they're roughly where we were last season. And I think we're approaching, where Toronto or Montreal was last season. I think that, okay, you want my prediction? I'm going to say at the absolute low end, another 9-win season. At the high end, I'm going to say a 14-win season for the REDBLACKS. That's if everything clicks. I think we're going to finish closer to about 11 or 12 wins. I could see us finishing 11-7, 12-6, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's really high. That's really high. I really don't think so. I think that we are a much stronger team than people give us credit for. So a big reason for that is I think some teams have taken a step back. I'm going to give you a hot take. Nuclear take. A take so hot that the sun is jealous. I don't think either team that made the Grey Cup last year is going to make the playoffs this year. Yeah, there, I said it. I think both the Argos and the Bombers are missing the postseason. How could you say this, your local Ottawa fan, is what you're thinking? How could you say that the two best teams from last season are not even going to get a ticket to the dance? Look at Toronto, who they lost. Their defense kind of got torpedoed. You could say, oh, well, their depth is gone. A defensive injury, there's going to be a hole there. And I've seen what happens when a football team doesn't have depth. I sat through seasons of that with the REDBLACKS. They go silent. They make bad mistakes that no other team would make. And perfect example, Nick Arbuckle. I think Nick Arbuckle is as good a QB as his team allows him to be. We saw him in the Grey Cup with a very good Toronto team. He elevated their play. And he was able to bring out the best in himself and become the Grey Cup MVP en route to a rout of Winnipeg. Just demolished them. Do you remember when he was a REDBLACK starter? I do. Turnover factory. He could have started a pastry company with how many turnovers he had. The team that season, we weren't the strongest. We were not what we are today. And I think with some of the losses that they've had, I think by my count, they had 9 or 10 losses on defense, and I'm probably wrong about that. Somebody who's like a big-time Argos fan, please tell me like exactly. Obviously Argos fans will be a bit more favorable towards the Argonauts, but I think that they've lost enough that when you keep putting them out there, I don't know. And again, that's who's going to be starting. Arbuckle's starting for the Argonauts until Chad Kelly is back. Now, I don't like Chad Kelly, but this isn't a video about that, but, he shouldn't be back. Disgusting fella. Obviously, you hate to see somebody get injured, but you also hate to see him play football, so it's a catch-22. I feel like they're going to have a slow start. I think they're going to have a sluggish start. I see the Argos starting... I don't think they're going to be terrible, but I could see them starting 3-9 and just not being able to get out of that. Or 3-6 through the first 9 games. And not being able to get out of that hole. And by the time they're back to competing, I think the East is going to be just too strong. I think the Alouettes, the REDBLACKS, and the Tiger Cats are going to field some pretty decent teams this season. Last season, the standard for playoffs was way higher than normal. I think there were, 3 or 2 6-win teams that didn't make the playoffs. In other seasons, 6 wins, easy, you're headed to the postseason. I think that the East is going to be better than the West this year. And as for Winnipeg, you're going to hate me. I think Zach Collaros is going to run out of gas. Father Time is cruel. And he takes everybody at some point. He injured his finger in the Grey Cup and was about as good at quarterback as I would be. And football's a brutal sport. And when you're 35, 36, injuries become more prevalent. I don't want Collaros to get injured, but I'm being realistic here. Can he play to the level that he's been playing at and stay healthy? I really hate to say it, I'm not sure. And it's not a no. If Winnipeg gets back to the Grey Cup, I'm not going to be surprised. There are just other teams where I'm more confident in their ability, where I'm like, no, I think that team is good. Like BC, I think BC is going to be good. Saskatchewan, I think Saskatchewan is going to be good. Like, I have far less questions about those teams. I'm like, no, I think that those teams are going to put together at least 9 wins. They are for sure like, in my mind, they're like playoff locks. For me, I think the REDBLACKS and the Alouettes are teams where I look at how they did last season. I look at how they did this offseason, and I think, no, those teams are going to be back. And that leaves me with the Tiger Cats, the Argonauts, the Blue Bombers, the Stampeders, and the Elks. And look, I know the Elks have stunk forever. I've been a REDBLACKS fan. I know what it's like. They were showing some glimmers at the end of last season. Trey Ford should have been played way earlier. And I think with a decent coach, I think they slip in there. I think they're the third West. I think that the Elks are where we were last season. A team that just wants to make the playoffs, that has made some improvements, that will probably make the playoffs, especially now that they have a bit of a better quarterback. And they're probably going to lose in the semis. They're probably going to, in my opinion, get kind of demolished by Saskatchewan. But that's the first step. That's the foundation. Winnipeg's made 5 Grey Cups, so it's hard to bet against them. But also, they've made 5 Grey Cups. You're out of your mind if you think they're at the start of their window. When you've made that many Grey Cups in a row with the same quarterback, you have to know that your window doesn't stay open forever. Time marches on, and eventually that window slams shut. Will it be this season? I don't know. But I think it might be. And yeah, I don't think Calgary is the one team where like they've made improvements. I look at the rest of the league and I just think that they need to improve the most to make it to the postseason. I think other teams are just a bit more solidified. I don't think that the Stampeders are going to make the playoffs this year. I hope they don't. They're the team that I hope misses probably the most, because they made it for 18 straight seasons and they finally miss it one time and they're woe is me. Oh, how hard it is to be a Stampeders fan. No. If the Bombers do miss the playoffs, if my prediction is right, I will feel exactly no sympathy for you. What? You made 5 Grey Cups. You won 2. Take a back seat, buddy. And maybe that is part of my bias. Same thing with the... I mean, that's what I hope, too. And maybe there is some bias in effect here. But look, the Argos, come on. They 2 wins in 3 seasons. They also won in 2017. Like, they've won a lot. They've made a few Grey Cups as well. Like, they're a decent team. But I think that with their losses on defense, I think they might take a step back. Now, I say that, maybe it'll be a smaller step back. Maybe it'll just be that they lose earlier in the playoffs. Same with the Bombers. I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs, but just don't make the Grey Cup this year. I hope they don't make the Grey Cup. I hope they don't. Look, I'm sorry, Bombers fans. You've had 5. You've had 5 straight. Move over. Give somebody else a chance, please. But that's my prediction. I'm saying number 1 is in the West between BC and Saskatchewan. Number 1 in the East between Montreal and Ottawa. And I think that the playoffs are going to be rounded out by Edmonton and Hamilton. Now, my other segment. My other promise to you. If you watched my previous video, if you subscribe, which you should, subscribe, please do it. I'd love it. I said, hey, I'll tell you why I watch CFL football. So here are my reasons. I'm going to give 3 big reasons why you should watch CFL football, especially if you've tried to watch American football and you just can't get into it. Reason number 1, less downs makes it more interesting. There's more likely to be a turnover. There's more likely to take a big risk. When you have 4 downs, you mess up on first down, that's all right. You have 3 more attempts. You have 2 more attempts without question, right? You could get it on second or third down. You still got 4th down. If it's 3rd and 1 in the NFL, it's no question. You go for it, obviously. Because if you don't get it and then it's a 4th and 1 situation, that's when you have to debate, okay, do we go for it? Do we not? In the CFL, you miss first down, second down, you got to go for something. You got to either get a chunk of yards to at least make 3rd down manageable, or you got to go for broke. And when you're 3rd down, you're more likely to be aggressive. Because, you've only got 3 attempts. If you're 3rd and 2, that means that, hey, you've averaged 4 yards per attempt. Go for it. It makes it more interesting because either things are snappy and they're going quick and you're seeing your team quickly get to the end zone, or you're seeing turnovers. And that's just interesting. I find that there's less slogs of a drive. And, while those can be interesting, those big drives that eat up a huge chunk can really just zap the energy. They still happen if you like that. It's still in the CFL, but it does encourage some of the quicker, longer plays, bigger catches, bigger plays. That's heavily encouraged. And with deeper end zones, that's further encouraged. You can throw it deep in the end zone for a touchdown. Reason number 2, time works different in Canada. It does. In Canada, in Canadian football, you have 20 seconds between downs, not 40. And you got 3 downs, which I've previously mentioned. So say you have a 3-point lead with 1.5 minutes left. And you're in your own territory. You can't just take a knee. Even if your opponent has used both timeouts, you can't just take a knee, and take a knee. Because, well, great, you've given them the ball in field goal range. You got to try something. You've actually got to get a first down. You probably got to get 2 first downs. In the NFL, if your opponent has no timeouts, and you have the ball with a minute and a half left, first down, game over. Like literally the next minute and a half, the next minute 59 seconds. Who cares? Turn off the TV, game's done. Go to sleep. You know, if they're down, they go for it. You know, they throw the ball with 2 minutes left. Right before the 2-minute warning, you catch it at a minute 59, intercept it. You go down, yep, time stops. There's the 2-minute warning. Then you burn 40 seconds. Then you burn another 40 seconds. Now you're on third down where you burn another 40 seconds. And then before fourth down, well, time runs out. And that's the third, and it's kind of related to the first one. There are last second play guarantees in the CFL. If you throw the ball and you catch it and you go down and there's 1 second left on the clock, time doesn't just run out and the game ends. No, there's 1 second on the clock. You get to run a play, which encourages last second thrill rides. Football is the sport for win or lose plays above any other sport. Hockey honestly doesn't really have it because you can't score more than one. So for example, in overtime, if you have a breakaway, you either win or keep playing. You know, if you shoot and they save it, you don't lose the game, you just get to continue playing the game. If you shoot and you score, you win the game. But there's no way where if you shoot, they save it, and the game's done, they win. But if you were to have scored, they win. You win. It doesn't happen like that. You can only go up by intervals of one. Same thing with soccer. With baseball, kind of. You know, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, full count, down by 1, down by 2, down by 3. Okay, if you're down by 1 and you hit a double, you win. If you're down by 3 and you hit a triple, you win. Or yeah, if you're down by 1 and you hit a double, you win. If you're down by 2 and you hit a triple, you win. If you're down by 3 and you hit a grand slam, you win. But you could also just hit a single, tie the game, and then the next batter's out. There's no guarantee that this is it. Like, barring penalty, this is the play to decide the game. They might throw on the full count and it's a ball and you walk to first base and then the next guy just strikes out on 3. We kind of have it in basketball, but it's quick, right? It's so snappy. It's like so specific, right? You got to be down by 1 or 2 and attempt a 2 or a 3 with no time left, the buzzer goes and it sinks. Yeah. And those are great. Those are thrilling. But in the CFL, you can actually run a play, like a full play. You know, say you're down by 5 at the opponent's 15 with 1 second on the clock. That's it. This is the play. You win, you lose. Those are the 2 options. You get the touchdown, game over, you win by 1. You don't get the touchdown, game over, you lose by 5. No in between. And you hike the ball, you have all the time in the world to try to find somebody open, to try to get something to happen. You don't need to look at the clock and go, oh, I got to throw it out, No. Field goals, the same thing. It builds up the tension. We had a few walk-off field goals that won us games last season. It was awesome because you can feel the tension grow. You know, Hamilton, that's a good example. Hamilton at Ottawa. Hamilton scores a late touchdown to go up by 1 point. We get into field goal range and you could feel the tension rising. We know what the stakes are. This is a win or lose play. Maybe there's a rouge and it's a tie, but in all likelihood, like, that's it. And there was another one against Calgary where they were up by 2 and we were attempting a field goal with, again, no time left. That's as win or lose as it gets. Either you make the field goal, get 3 points, time expires, you win the game, or you miss the field goal, even with a rouge, you're still down by 1, you'll lose the game, no time left. There is no in between. In the NFL, you could make an amazing catch to get in field goal range with 3 seconds left, 2 seconds left, 1 second left, game over. You lose. Oh! Look, I'm a Niners fan. I've benefited from that. I remember that game against the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Where Dak Prescott makes a boneheaded decision, runs, goes down, time runs out, and up. Niners win. And in that instance, yeah, that rule benefited the team that I cheer for. But in terms of the sport being interesting, kind of lame, right? Wouldn't it have been more fun if there was a final winner-take-all play? Make or miss play? The CFL is fun. It's fast. And I think it's going to be a good season. So that's all for this one. Next video will be about the regular season, where the Ottawa REDBLACKS kick off the regular season in Saskatchewan against the Rough Riders Thursday at 9 p.m. Oh, I'm gonna have to have some coffee for that. But it's gonna be a good game, I'm sure. I think both teams could. I wouldn't be surprised if we see both teams in the Grey Cup, to be honest. I think both teams within the next 5 years will win a Grey Cup. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good season. And yes, I'm going to talk about the PWHL draft and the expansion draft. Don't you worry. And as always, go Ottawa, go!